guys.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Mikey Kim.
Long time no see. Long time no speaky.
Yes. I know it. So great to all get together again.
Yeah, it's another treat for the YouTube community.
Treat for us.
Talking of treats.
Well, yeah, us too.
Talking of treats. Are you ready?
Oh, you were ready.
I cheated.
Okay.
Mine are already open.
She's already started on them.
So am I.
Ours too.
Me.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Well, in fact, see, this is what everybody is used to seeing me eating. Well, Kim has put me on a diet, so now I got to cut it out.
I can beat you on that. The size of mine.
Yep. And in honor of our British friends, we have tea.
We have tea ready.
Instead of
We have
coffee.
water.
We have water.
Water.
Some might accuse us of being vodka, but it's not. I
it's
can assure you it's water.
It's too early for that. That's later with the G&T.
Anyway, how's the family? Everybody okay?
Everybody is doing great.
Good.
Shyla started her full-time job, working for college, which gives her a tremendous amount of benefits through the college. And the biggest benefit is they're going to pay for the large portion of her education as she goes on.
Oh, it's amazing.
I'm a therapist.
She wants to be a female version of Steve Hassan.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
She'll be wonderful at it.
She would be really good at
because
that.
she's got a wonderful heart and she's very intelligent up here too.
And because she's got the ability to sign language as well, do the sign language. She can help people that obviously can't hear but can see the sign language.
Give them both our love when you see them. And
We sure will. And how is all your family doing?
They're very well. Yes, they only go in the cupboard twice a day now and get locked up. So they're progressing out very slowly.
Good.
No, they're all doing really well.
Doing well.
Bren starts college tomorrow, so
excellent.
his first day.
Yeah, he's all nervous, but
nervous.
there we go. They're all growing up.
Yeah.
But,
So
haven't we gone through some news these last few days and weeks with so many things happening? We've got so much information over this end, and I know you two guys, I don't know how you do it, but you're magnets for collecting information from lots of different people. You have a special knack for it, and we look at you and go, how did you know that? and we're quite often in awe of the things you come out with. You think, wow, we didn't even know anything about that. That's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
We have one thing. I don't know if you've seen it. I went out this morning on a Sunday. Here we go. It's lovely to get up on a Sunday morning and go and get a paper instead of getting up on a Sunday morning and scribbling colourful lines across my watchtower. It's lovely. So I went to the shop and I got myself a newspaper because I was very keen to find out where we are with this ongoing case that we've got going on in this country with a particular Jehovah's Witness family. And they're called the King family, and it's a young lad who's called Asher King, who's had a brain tumour, and he's been operated on at Southampton Hospital. And we really feel for the parents on a lot of different levels here because obviously of everything that's going on, but for some reason they've absconded with this young lad. And have you heard about this news over your side of the pond?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, we have
articles, and the XJW community has been sending us quite a few links to these articles.
Yeah, as far as the news feed or what we're getting through our televisions, or as you folks say, the telly.
Telly.
Yeah, we don't get a whole lot. So the majority of what we're hearing now is actually through the YouTube community and through the ex-Jehovah's Witness community.
And my homepage, I have a news feed on my homepage, and it
Yes.
did come up on that. And we did hear that there is a warrant out for the parents' arrest.
That's correct.
And what's sad about all of this is when Mark and I first heard about the whole story, we looked at each other and we said, I bet it's a Jehovah's Witness family. So straight away you have the whole mindset, has it got something to do with the blood issue?
Yeah.
And then you think, well, regardless of whether it's got something to do with the blood issue or not, the fact is they've removed a child without going through the right way of doing it. So regardless of whether it's got to do with the blood issue or not.
Yeah, because we don't know the facts.
We don't know the facts.
We don't
You're
know
only hearing what we're being told in the news.
You could assume it might have something to do with blood, but there again, it might not have anything to do with blood. So we don't know. But what it has done, it opened up for us lots of our fresh memories of things that we've been researching into now for the last couple of years regarding the whole issue of the association of Jehovah's Witnesses with the medical fraternity, and exactly where all this is going. And this type of news that we're seeing now is just unearthing all of those typical, stereotypical type of scenarios that happen as a result of a child, especially the children, being critically ill, and then having to face not only the prospect of the surgery, but having to deal with all sorts of other extenuating circumstances that have nothing to do with their injury, that are the mindset of those adults around them. And this particular case, I'm sure as the days go by, we'll gain more of the facts from the authorities, because they will start to obviously report, because I know the press over in Europe as well are keen to want to know as much as possible as to why on earth did these parents not only move their son, who was critically ill, but all of their children in a car, 6 or 7 of them now, and just make a bunk for Europe and just leg it to Europe.
See, regardless of whether this has got anything to do with the blood or medical issues anyway, the fact is to remove a child who's that critically ill without going through the proper channels, if you're not happy with the way that the child is being treated in a hospital, then you ask for that child to be transferred. To risk the life of that child by just taking them out of the hospital, you have to question the mindset of the parents. And then it starts you thinking, well, even if it isn't linked with the blood, as Jehovah's Witnesses, when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, the way we used to view anything to do with medical treatments, you want the best for your children, but you also want to keep in line with what you've been taught as being the right way to avoid blood, because of it being on a religious ground, and the way that Jehovah God views the blood issue, and to abstain from blood. And then obviously now in these days it's fractions rather than whole blood. And then you can have fractions of those fractions, but you can't have the main primary four. So, you start thinking, well, actually this is a bigger picture than just this one family and what's happening with them right now. This is an absolute massive issue with this religious sect cult, as it were, known as Jehovah's Witnesses, and the way they view medical issues.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of research on the blood, as you know, and there is an absolute universe of information out there on blood products and what all of these blood products are used for, the fractionated parts of the blood that are then used and utilized in many, many different avenues for very different types of medical treatments that can be offered to patients. But the problem is that as a Jehovah's Witness, the vast majority of them, and I mean the vast majority of them, have no idea exactly what treatments do have fractionated blood in as to those that don't. And they rely on certain other individuals, many of them HLC members, to come up with the facts themselves. Now, as we know, many of the HLC teams that we've come in contact with, and through experience of talking to ex-HLC members, that they too don't have a clue on what they're actually issuing as edicts to the patient regarding all of these different blood products, because it can become very complex and very orientated about what treatment that child actually needs. And we're talking about children here at the moment. So the reason I mention that is because this is when it comes to the medical world and Jehovah's Witnesses, they glaze over. They hope that somebody somewhere will come up with the right decisions for them as an individual. And they're looking around at the elders, they're looking around at Bethel HQ to say, please, this has become so confusing now as to what blood products I can have, what blood products I can't have. And then if I do take blood, and it's not the prescribed amount that you're saying I can have, I can be disassociated as a result. And that disassociation, if I'm unrepentant, can mean all sorts of other implications.
I think have you got
well, here's the thing, my brother. I don't want to correct you, but Tim and I do happen to have a copy of the Shepherding the Flock of God book that the elders are in possession of, and the rank and file, the Jehovah's Witness, don't have it. We have.
Well, it does say that if they don't repent,
Right,
they
they will
can
just-
be considered disassociated.
Yeah, but chapter 9, page 111, paragraph 3. Unwilling and unrepentantly taking blood. And I'm quoting directly from the Shepherding the Flock of God book. If someone willingly takes blood, perhaps because of being under extreme pressure, the committee should obtain the facts and determine the individual's attitude. If he is repentant, the committee would provide spiritual assistance in the spirit of Galatians 6:1 and Jude 22 and 23. Since he is spiritually weak, he would not qualify for special privileges for a period of time, and it may be necessary to remove certain basic privileges. ... because there's a little bit more, but it does not pertain to the conversation we're having here. But the point that does pertain, Jehovah's Witnesses, these are instructions that are given to your elders that are not related back to you as a congregation. So here's how the game works, Jehovah's Witnesses. If you're at that critical moment and your child or yourself or your family member is about to die because of not receiving a blood transfusion, then why don't you just use their words against them and become spiritually weak?
Yeah.
Save your life. And then when you're with this judicial committee, weep and cry, put on a good show that you're spiritually weak, because really all they're going to do is, if you're a brother, they're going to just take away some privileges, but at least you can live with yourself knowing that either you yourself remained alive or your child has remained alive. And that's the important thing, not what 7 men in Watchtower Land are dictating to you through these elders.
There's so many different layers to all of this, Mike, with regards to the unrepentance. You're absolutely right. This unrepentance bit is an interesting one, because there are still many people that feel, well, I'm not unrepentant about giving something to my child to keep them alive. For others, they will say, yes, I am now. But you know what? There's an interesting point here. Now, when we were talking to the trauma experts down at the London Royal Hospital, there's something that many Jehovah's Witnesses are unaware of here, and it's regarding confidentiality. The whole issue of patient confidentiality is vital within the hospital, and the surgeons work extremely closely with the patient and with the next of kin to make sure that the information that they're providing between each other is completely confidential. Now, there's a very big divide and a massive disconnect here between that and suddenly finding out that the elders suddenly get all of this information from the HLC to another group of elders in the congregation, who then make a judgment on this individual. Now, that clearly is a complete breach in the ethics and what could be seen as arguably coercion and undue influence of the patient. And this information, and most witnesses will admit to this privately, they know that when they're in hospital and when the HLC are there, this information is not going to be kept private if they decide to transgress and start taking additional products that the society have deemed not appropriate. And so as a result of that, this information becomes open to other people to judge them. And
Right.
we know, and you've just read that in the Shepherd book there, that's exactly what goes on. And this is fundamentally flawed. And it shows exactly where the undue influence is, where the witness and the outside medical staff are completely unaware of this extra layer
pressure.
of pressure that's being applied to these people. And that's the stuff that gets our goat, because we want to make every witness aware that you don't have to go through this. This is your conscience, and it should be between you and your own spirituality.
And at the end of the day, as we've just pointed, as you were just saying, this hasn't got anything to do with God. God actually does not come into play at all with what they do in this. And we've done a little bit of research that we've found out that if you ask the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses out there that if they could take blood and get away with people not knowing they had, the majority of them would. Yeah. Now, that is fear of man as opposed to their fear of how their God is viewing them.
That's absolutely correct.
And that's when it comes under the undue influence thing of it's the pressure that they're under.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make some good points.
This might be a good point, a good time to share this about how Jehovah's Witnesses think and how they're pressured into thinking certain ways. I was planning on doing a video, excuse me, at some point about the fires of Moloch. Because being a Jehovah's Witness for 42 years, I've sat in the Kingdom Hall countless of times and read the account about, you know, do not let your children pass through the fires of Moloch.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, when a Jehovah's Witness read that, they automatically assume that this has to do with child sacrifice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Research that I've done and I wanted to share, the fires of Moloch have nothing to do with child sacrifice. It has to do with some religious ritual rite. Now, whether it's holding your hand over a burning candle for 10 seconds or what, I don't know. But the point that I want to derive from this is that even in the Insight on the Scriptures book, Volume 2, page 424, talking about the passing through the fires of Moloch, just a second in. It just once the society recognizes that it was some sort of dedication to Moloch as opposed to child sacrificing, the paragraph goes on and says that the Canaanites and the apostate Israelites did sacrifice their children. There is no question. So I'd like to read just a small excerpt from the contemporary English version, 2nd Chronicles, chapter 28. Now I'll need my glasses.
No, those are mine.
Oh, wrong one. No, these are mine. Chapter 28 and verse 1. It says, Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king of Judah, and he ruled from Jerusalem for 16 years. Ahaz was nothing like his ancestor David. Ahaz disobeyed the Lord and was sinful as a king of Israel. He made idols of the Baal god, and he offered sacrifices in Hinnom Valley. Worst of all, Ahaz sacrificed his own sons, which was a disgusting custom of the nations that the Lord had forced Israel out. Ahaz offered sacrifices at the local shrines as well as on every hill and in the shade of large trees. And when I was reading that, I couldn't help but think that when you hear Jehovah's Witnesses involved in these blood-related issues, they're willing to take their child from the safety of a hospital out to another hospital to maybe offer them as a sacrifice there. And I use this terminology, and I know some Jehovah's Witnesses find it kind of harsh, but I'm going to make a connection here. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, Jehovah's Witnesses, we're all very familiar with this because this is one of the main sets of scriptures we use in our door-to-door work. But verse 3 says, having no natural affection, not open to any agreement. Jehovah's Witnesses, ponder this thought over. How many times have you heard in your local news of some woman giving birth to a child and placing that child into a privy, into a porta-john, or something? And yet Jehovah's Witnesses, when you hear that, you say, see, we're living in the last days because there's no natural affection. How could that mother possibly have put that child into the porta-john? But yet you don't realize, Jehovah's Witnesses, that when this scripture is read, having no natural affection, I have to ask, how could you allow your child to die on the operating table while refusing blood? Where's your natural? See, Jehovah's Witnesses, you have to realize that this scripture, in a very literal way, applies to you. When you allow 8 men that run the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society to dictate to you,
7 now.
7 men, yes. When you allow 7 men to dictate medical procedures to you that allow you to die on an operating table, you become no better than Ahaz, who allowed his sons to be sacrificed. Yeah. You're no better than what's taking place here. Yeah. So when you read these scriptures and apply them to other people, think about yourselves and what Watchtower is demanding you to do. They're demanding you to sacrifice your children to this false god, just like Ahaz did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and like we said, we don't know if this King family, you know, if it was over the blood issue
No,
or
we
not.
don't know.
But
Yeah.
But we do know of many other cases where our brothers and sisters have lost their lives
Absolutely.
because of this issue.
And
Well,
even if it wasn't over the blood issue, the fact is they have still endangered that child's life.
Yes. Yeah.
By taking them away. And what really got our goat was we watched a little bit of the news the other day where a Watchtower representative was on there, and he said that this had nothing to do with the Watchtower, that they weren't responsible for their actions. Well, I have to argue greatly on that, with the fact that all of these things they put in place are there through that corporation, through that organization.
Yeah.
Those rules and regulations are there.
Exactly, Mike. I was just going to say, look at the shepherding book there, the book that doesn't exist, the secret book that they claim that they don't have. Many of them still say that. Now, this book, you look at the guidelines in there, those lines are instructions, clear instructions to keep the sheep inside the control mechanisms of Watchtower. That's exactly what this book is for, and it's universal. Now, that book and the shepherding and instruction book that's there is responsible for many people passing away as a result of those instructions. We all know that as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses because we see it for what it is. But unfortunately, and they are victims, this family that have taken their children, all of their children, in a car and taken their very poorly young man away from this hospital when he desperately needs that medical treatment. And this feeding machine has now run out of its battery. So God knows what they're up to now, feeding him. They have taken a very big decision that I cannot believe was just based on their own thinking. This had far more deeper layers of influence that has come from Watchtower. Why? Because they are Jehovah's Witnesses. And we know exactly what that means to be a Jehovah's Witness and to be under those pressures. So we don't know the facts of why they've done this, but over the next few days we're hoping that in time we'll start to get the true facts. But one thing is clear, and I'm sure you and every ex-JW in the community out there will all agree with us, that we hope no matter what happens, if they can read and see this video, I hope they can, that they will do the right thing, give themselves up and give this boy back to the authorities where he can at least have a chance of living.
Why didn't they do it? My question comes again, is if they're not under undue influence and it's got nothing to do with medical reasoning apart from if they want extra care for him or whatever, why did they do it in the way they did it? Why didn't they do it above board? Why didn't they actually go to the hospital and say, we're not happy with the treatment he's having, we'd like to transfer him to a hospital in Spain or France or wherever it is they want to go? Why have they had to be so underhand with it? Why have they had to go behind everybody's backs? Why have they had to go quickly and do things quickly and take their entire family and hide like they are?
Lots of questions here.
It just asks more questions.
Were the HLC involved? Were they involved, the HLC? This is a young man that was having surgery for a brain tumor, a very serious operation 8 days ago. Now, were the HLC involved in the hospital at this time?
And if they were, Watchtower cannot stand there and say that this had nothing to do with them.
Another question.
If they've sent the HLC in, they are directly connected with it because the HLC work underneath their guise of their rules and regulations and their structure they've put in place. So
and to make
they
sure,
have got
and make
a
sure
hand in this.
they stay within those rules. Now, once again, it's all speculation at this point, but the bigger picture is this is how Watchtower works. And we all know that.
They pass the buck where they can.
But we just hope that these parents will see sense, break through the whatever it is that's in here that's pushing them the wrong way, and to get their son back into hospital where he belongs, and to give him a fighting chance of surviving this. And our hearts go out to all of them because these parents are victims too. They really are. And they need help, they need support, they need understanding. And they're not going to get it from Watchtower.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's not there.
At this point, they're just fugitives.
Yeah.
You know, putting this, their son in danger.
Yeah.
And, I don't know about other countries, but here in this country, the courts will go in and do the court order to, take care of and mandate to take care of these children, no matter what medical procedure they need.
Yeah.
So, were they trying to avoid that? We just don't know.
We don't know at this stage. We don't know. But it's an interesting case, and I'm sure if you can keep your side on this one, we'll certainly do it from this, and maybe we'll have a follow-up video to talk about the after effects, because they can't hide forever. They will be found out somewhere, and let's just hope that this young man has a chance to at least get the treatment he needs.
And in the meantime, our prayers go out to the family, and that they see sense and make contact with the authorities. And if they have moved him and their intentions are to move him to another hospital, then surely the hospital will be expecting them.
And let's hope it's quick.
So
yeah, I hope they're not just stuck in some villa somewhere wondering what to do next.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare scenario for the young man's life. He doesn't need that right now.
No, and the children, the rest of the children involved in the family
That's
don't
right.
need that either.
Yeah. There's the other point to all this. You see, the Watchtower will then go very quiet, because if these parents are arrested, let's look at the scenario that this young man dies because of lack of treatment. Then the authorities will have to decide whether or not to charge these parents with neglect. Now, if that happens, then the children that are in this family,
another 6 children,
will all probably end up being split up, possibly by the social services, being shared around all over the place with different families and friends, or with the social services. This is a complete decimation of this family.
Exactly.
This one decision.
And it looked like you had a newspaper also, that it looked like they had made the front page.
Yes,
they have.
Yeah, they did. And this is what we're looking at here. Here's the poor lad, this poor boy, and his brother obviously loves him dearly. And these are real human beings here. These are real lives, and it's not something that we take lightly coming on YouTube to talk about, but we're doing it because this is a life situation here, life and death. So I quote just a little bit of it. It says here that Aisha has undergone extensive surgery for the aggressive tumor, with the last stop just 8 days ago. I mean, I can't.
On his head.
I mean, why would you take a boy out of hospital 8 days ago? He's had his brain opened. Hampshire Police Assistant Chief Constable Chris Sheed confirmed the force had obtained a European arrest warrant. He said it was based around neglect.
Yeah.
But added, that does not necessarily mean that they would be charged with that offence. It purely gives us the power to arrest and speak to them. He went on, we don't want the family to be put off by the fact that there is an arrest warrant. We would sooner they speak to us and get Aisha the care he desperately needs. He warned the battery on Aisha's feeding system will have expired, and police had a shrinking window to find him. Mr. Sheed pleaded with the Kings to give themselves up and said, I'm sure what they are doing, they think they are doing in Aisha's best interests.
They think they are doing the best. It's
But
that undue influence.
But the advice I've been given from the doctors today is this is a really quite serious situation. End of quote. So it's desperate. And I hope somebody who's connected, when we get this straight out tonight, and when you can get it out as well, we're hoping that somewhere within the XJW community, a feedback can get back to this family, or people that might be harboring them in Spain or wherever they are right now.
Yeah,
the importance is the child.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Yeah, it's the child's safety that matters above anything else. Get the child the best health on the road to recovery, and then just deal with the congregation, Jehovah Witness aftermath after the fact.
Exactly.
Because it will pass. Yeah, these judicial meetings do pass.
Oh yeah, see, and that's the whole thing about Watchtower, is that they, even though they present themselves to the community as a loving group of people that want to go door knocking and spread the message of God, there's a hidden message behind Watchtowers that if you become a member and something like this happens, you will be required to let your family member die rather than take a blood transfusion. Now, again, we know the blood's probably not the issue in this case, but there are other documented cases that Jehovah's Witnesses have lost their lives because of a simple operational procedure.
Well, as we know, they're even proud of the fact that happens. Remember the 94 Awake, the front page of all those. I think it's
Oh,
28
yeah.
children on there.
Well, also, yeah, but I was just thinking something you mentioned the other day about the Ebola virus, about how most watchtowers actually said that, you know, the thing has gone out to Africa, that the people are not to go to large gatherings. They are to stay where they are. They are to avoid as much as they possibly can association with people in order to prevent that from not spreading. And the watchtower have put out the call saying that their people are to meet in secret then, and these secret meetings are taking place right now.
Yeah. And we actually gotten emails from current Jehovah's Witnesses in Africa.
Yeah.
Telling us that Watchtower has asked them to continue to do this.
They're meeting like book study group size in homes now.
Yeah. But even that is still spreading. You're still going against the authorities.
Yeah. You know, you brothers and sisters know, as well as Kim and I do, that this plays right into the fear of what Watchtower feeds with the mind control, undue influence, and be ready to obey, whether it's not logical from a human standpoint or not. Yeah. But little things like this prepares the mind of the Jehovah Witness that in the big Armageddon thing, we're going to be ready to meet in small groups. Because, see, we've already tested this out through the Ebola virus, through the hurricane and the typhoon.
The Philippines.
Yeah. See, they've already had a test situation for these natural disasters, and Jehovah's Witnesses are preparing themselves for it unduly.
And it's not even a more recent issue. This has been going on for decades within the Watchtower. Take the polio virus, the vaccine. Years ago, people the witnesses used to put acid to mark the area where the injection would normally, to mimic the vaccine, so that because the Watchtower had said that these vaccines were not to be, because they were supposed to have blood in them, were not to be taken. So the majority of the witness children will have these little acid marks put on them in order to look like they'd had the polio vaccine, when actually they hadn't, putting themselves in danger along with multitudes of other people.
Yeah.
This is not a new thing for Watchtower, and yet they stand there and they blatantly say this has nothing to do with the Watchtower, nothing to do with us. When throughout history, completely proves that they are behind everything like this. It just drives me insane.
The loss of life through the decades must be absolutely incredible, and because they've never kept a record of it, surprise, surprise, that we know that they are very blood guilty for the loss of life right the way through the world, for many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Who knows how many have died because of the edicts of Watchtower. And it gives you an idea. Romans 13, be in subjection to the superior authorities, is a Christian commandment. If they really were a Christian organization, they would be following what the authorities are saying, especially when it comes to medical advice on things like vaccinations, to follow a certain rule, because it's a protection for everybody. But they decide, no, it's not biblical as far as we're concerned, and therefore we'll put everybody in danger. Remarkable.
The same rules over their child abuse. They should be reporting these to the authorities. You know, if nothing else, just the principle of the matter, they should all be reported to the authorities and let them handle it. But we know, even in states where they're required to report these, they're still not doing it, at least here in the United States.
They're pushing for mandatory reporting at the moment in order to try and get that in place here in the UK.
We are working on that.
We are working on that with the MP.
We're trying to pressure Parliament into this involvement with mandatory reporting. We're not the only groups doing it. There are other groups in this country doing it.
It's not just witnesses,
But we're trying to get the leaked letters into these inquiries to show them that exactly what toxicity is involved with this. And the ironic thing is, we know that the Watchtower isn't breaking any laws in this country. We understand that now. But that means they're not breaking any laws because the laws aren't there.
Yes.
And that's what needs to be changed.
And that's the loophole they use in order to get away with the treatment of these children or people, of adults. Even adults have been abused, that have been covered up. So this is where it needs to change. The policies need to change, or the mandatory reporting needs to come into place to make them change their policies, to force them to.
Wouldn't it be fantastic? Wouldn't it be amazing if the 7 men in the governing body said, right, okay, if that's what you're looking for, we will send a letter to the British government outlining that we want to support mandatory reporting in the United Kingdom. Wouldn't that be a wonderful gesture? Wouldn't that be something that's humane? It makes sound advice, and it says to the elders, whenever you hear of any of this in the future, bang, you go straight to the police with it, because we've said that's the best thing to do. Wouldn't that be wonderful if they could do that? But we know that's fantasy land. They're never going to do that.
Because when that happens, it'll get rid of the large majority of the elders.
But it also makes you stop and wonder, why aren't they doing this?
Right.
You know, that's what I have to question. Why aren't they doing this?
See, this is what I like to view. Going right back to 2 Chronicles 28. Watchtower was nothing like their ancestor David. Watchtower disobeyed the Lord, and was as sinful as the kings of the rest of the world. Watchtower made idols to the god Baal, and Watchtower offered human sacrifices.
Now, I never read that one before. Yeah.
That's Watchtower chapter 28, verse 5.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be somebody looking up that now, trying to find
it.
Yes. Jehovah's Witnesses, you have to realize, you have to contemplate that you are truly involved with something that you know nothing about, that is damaging the human family. I'm sorry. They just don't
influence.
realize what's happening to them.
No.
We
love you, Mike.
We love you guys too.
And we love you, Kim. We know what it means. We get upset too. I get very emotional at times where it just triggers off in me, and I can't help it, because we want to speak up for the voiceless, for those people that, especially children, that can't speak up for themselves, whether or not it's in a hospital, like this poor lad now that's being rushed around in a car somewhere in the middle of nowhere, or kids that have been molested or raped that can't have a voice because it's being controlled by men. And we get passionately involved with this stuff because we know they are fundamentally flawed as an organization, and they are causing so much damage to so many people. And this has nothing to do with an almighty God, nothing to do with him at all.
It's to do with an organisation, a corporation that are under the guise of a religion when they're not. Yeah. They are not. They have got rules and regulations there that are not biblical and not loving, not kind, not anything other than just to control their members.
You have a warm heart, my brother. You have a warm heart.
I like to come across as this big loudmouth on YouTube, but it honestly, it tears me up what this organization is doing to the human family.
And I can't imagine Christ, I can't even begin to picture Christ, doing these things that this organization, and it's not just Watchtower, we know there's so many cults out there, and some are doing worse things. And we just talked about this yesterday when we were Skyping, and it just hurts us so much to see all this, and in the name of religion and in the name of God, and it just can't be. It can't be.
No, it's
not just Watchtower. It's Scientology. It's a whole other list of cults. I mean, my God, it's just too many to mention. But those people are hurting too. It's not just Jehovah's Witnesses.
No.
It's not just them.
It's a bigger picture than that. But it's just because we've been involved in this one, we can speak from experience of how this undue influence works, because we were under that undue influence.
You were experts at it. We're experts at it because we were there.
We were there.
We saw it. We heard it. We breathed it. We saw the influence. We saw the pressure.
Yeah, it's only when you step back and you free your mind and you find who you are as an individual and you identify your true identity that you then can stand back and go, that's wrong.
It's very wrong.
This is wrong on every level.
Yeah.
And that's why we won't be quiet now. We will have a voice to talk about this and expose it where we can.
Here's a question for any witness that might be watching this as it goes on archive in the future from weeks, months or years to come. Here's a question for Jehovah's Witnesses. Why is it Why is it that when we're talking about these things, these these life and death matters, why is it your organization, your governing body, disown any responsibility whatsoever for the decisions that you are making? And yet they're the ones that are applying pressure on you to make those decisions. But when it comes to the public issue of this, and when a microphone is put in front of this governing body to explain why this is happening to witnesses, why are they doing this to themselves, they'll put their hand up and say, this is not our responsibility. This is an individual choice. When you're reading things like that, Mike, from the shepherding book, we know that's a total lie. So that's our question to Jehovah's Witnesses out there. What on earth are you involved with?
That they're ready to turn their back on you.
They will turn their back
just to
on you.
save their own arse.
In the blink of an eye.
Our dear friend, the unknown apostate, he told us the other day that he's got this great question, for elders. It's like, would you lie to your brothers and sisters? And most elders would say no. Well, then I want to add to that in the question, then why are you not telling them that, they can get away with letting family or themselves have a blood transfusion?
Yeah. It's a very good point, Kim, because why aren't they taking that piece of paper that you've just pointed up there and taking it to that hospital bed and say to the parents, please read this and then make a real value decision and we'll sort it out later? Why aren't they saying that? No, they'll let the child die first. That child will die first.
Yeah, that would be the loving thing to do, and then, okay, we don't want to add to your problem, but let's help you get through this, and then we'll deal with this afterwards. That would be the loving thing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, we don't know as we just stressed again, we don't know the facts around this particular case, and we know it might not have anything to do.
And this isn't an attack on the family.
No, it's not.
But it's a plea to the family.
It's a plea to the family. We love this family. We don't know them, but there's an internal love here to these witnesses that we're not judging you.
As parents.
But we know what you're under.
Yeah.
Well, this is the way I feel about it. Even though, Watchtower Disfellowship, Kim and I, under hearsay, and you brothers and sisters know the story. I refuse to call these people my brothers and sisters, even though they will not call me a brother now because I'm disfellowshipped. That doesn't negate my responsibility to call them brother and sister, and that's the way I feel about it.
You won't call them brother and sister?
No, I will.
You will.
No,
You will not call them that. Yeah.
I'm still kind of upset.
He's upset.
We've been asked that question a few times ourselves. Why do you call them a brother? Why do you call them a sister? And I said, because they were, and they still are.
We're not under Watchtower's rules.
We're not under their rules.
Just because they have to shun us doesn't mean we have to shun them back.
Yeah.
We're not under their guise anymore. We're not under their rules anymore.
But we know what pressure they're under, and the price that they pay for putting their hand up and saying, "I'm sorry, you're wrong." We know what price that is because we've paid it, and so have you. And so have many thousands of others. But we're willing to do it because we know this is the right path. We know because we've seen all of the information now that they've tried to conceal from every single Jehovah's Witness. We've seen it, we know it, and we share it with the world. And there's nothing they can do about that. They try and shut us up, but it won't work. Because if we go down, then there's somebody else that will take up the flag. Until they're brought to their knees and made to realize that they should apologize for every single person that has ever been killed because of their edicts through the years. And until they start waking up and actually apologizing for the things they've done wrong and changing them, then we're always going to be here doing this.
And I want Watchtower to know that given another choice, I'd do the same damn thing all over again just to expose who and what you truly are. Even if it costs me, my family, all over again, I will do it.
Yeah. Same here. Well, we love you guys.
So, we love you guys. So I guess we should do our formal thing and say goodnight, Mark and Cora.
Hey, can I have a packet of those M&Ms? You need to pass them in the post, please.
There you go, Mark. It just reach right through the screen.
And next time,
we'll say goodbye.
We'll say goodbye, guys.
You take care.
We'll speak to you soon. But we're sending lots of love to everyone, and especially to the King family.
Yeah.
We're thinking of you, and we're praying for you.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.